Hey there, fellow gardeners. February is here, and for those of you in Georgia, that means it's time to prep your soil and get planting. Whether you've got years of experience or you're just getting started, today I'm going to walk you through exactly what to plant this month to make the most of your garden. Georgia's climate varies across the state, but I'll make it straightforward for you. The state covers USDA hardiness zones 7A to 9B, which means planting times depend slightly on your specific area. Here's a map. Locate your city or town and remember your zone. This will be helpful as we go through the top crops to plant this month. And remember, if this video reaches 200 likes, I'll know that you want more Georgia-specific content. For gardeners in 6A through 7B, you'll want to focus on starting your seeds indoors during February, ideally in the last 2 weeks of the month. These areas typically face colder winters and late frost, so give your plants a head start indoors. It's a less risky bet. Once the threat of hard frost is gone, they'll be ready to perform outdoors. Stick around to the end because there are crops that you can plant that your warmer neighbors shouldn't be planting. For those of you in warmer zones, 8A through 10B, you've got the advantage of milder winters and earlier springs. I'm pleasantly envious. And that means that you can skip the indoor prep and go straight to sowing seeds directly outside. But if I were your neighbor, I'd be starting seeds indoors or in a greenhouse anyway. This gives you more control over the conditions, leading to better germination rates and improving the survivability of seedlings during their most vulnerable stage. Stick around too, because there are more than just cold hardy plants that you can get started on this month. Let's dive into the best plant varieties for your zone this month. First up, let's talk about leafy greens and brassicas. These are our classic cool weather crops and should be started soon to welcome early spring. Lettuce is first on our list. Unless you're using pelleted seeds, which I don't recommend because they're expensive and they don't last long. Lettuce seeds are small and can be difficult to work with, so I sow them differently than most other seeds. I find it's best to sow them in a small pot, like a solo cup, about 3 to 4 inches across. Let them germinate, and once the leaves turn from a pale green to a true vibrant green, you can prick them out into individual cells. Small cells work perfectly for this step, 128 per 1020 tray. If you're a fan of cabbage, now's the time to plant early cabbage, broccoli, and cauliflower. Start them indoors in size 72 cells per 1020 tray, or sow them directly into your garden if you're in a warmer zone. Now, let's talk alliums. Spring onions are super easy to grow. Last year I planted a bunch of green onions that I bought from the supermarket. I got a whole season worth of leaves and seeds that I'll be planting this year. Because of their small seeds, I plant them in mass nursery similar to lettuce and later separate them into individual cells for transplanting. You can also plant proper onions and garlic this month. If you didn't get garlic in last fall, there's still time to plant cloves for a late season harvest. These crops are hardy and thrive even in cooler soils. I screwed up my garlic last year by not allowing them to dry properly, and now I'm questioning whether the cloves I planted in November will come up at all. For onions, you should be planting short day varieties. And for garlic, stick to soft neck varieties. Regardless of your climate, garlic cloves should be planted outdoors as soon as the soil becomes workable. I don't recommend starting onions from sets. Go with seeds instead and treat them in the same way you would treat lettuce or green onions. They'll have plenty of time to be massive bulbs. All right, now let's move on to root vegetables. Late February is the perfect time to sow beets, radishes, turnips, kohlrabi. These are quick growing crops that thrive in cooler conditions. If you've never tried kohlrabi, I highly recommend it. They're excellent, and I prepare them like potatoes and enjoy them as like French fries. For beets, radishes, and turnips, I use a similar approach when planting. I sow 2 to 4 seeds per cell. This depends on how old your seeds are. Instead of culling, I transplant them in bunches. When it comes time to harvest, I pick the largest of the bunch first, allowing the others to continue growing in that extra space. For kohlrabi, I plant 2 seeds per cell, but only allow 1 to grow. It feels wrong pinching seedlings out of existence, but trust me, it's the right thing to do. And don't forget about celery and fennel. Celery is one of the most unique crops to grow because their seeds require light to germinate. I plant these in mass nurseries like I do with lettuce, but don't bury them. I lightly scratch them into the surface. February is the perfect time to plant broad beans and peas for shoots. Soaking the seeds overnight before planting can help speed up the germination. These hardy crops thrive in chilly temperatures and can be sown directly into the ground as soon as the soil is workable, even in zones 6 through 8. Both broad beans and peas are nitrogen fixers, making them an excellent addition to any garden. I recommend planting them abundantly to fill empty space while your main crops are growing. As your primary plants start to take over, you can cut back the beans and peas before they produce seed. This helps retain as much nitrogen in the soil, benefiting any type of garden. Now let's talk about herbs. For cilantro, sow 2 or 3 seeds per cell and thin to 1 seedling per cell once they sprout. Parsley can be a bit tricky for new, inexperienced gardeners alike, since they have a long germination time, but I plant them similar to lettuce. Both of these cool season herbs are perfect for adding fresh flavor to your meals and can save you a ton of money. Speaking of savings, lettuce and spinach are also fantastic crops for the wallet. If you're thinking long-term, consider planting asparagus and globe artichokes. These perennials require some effort up front, but once established, they keep producing for years. The investment is worth it. Thanks for watching, friends. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more gardening tips and tricks. I'd love to keep making content tailored just for you. If this video gets more than 200 likes, it tells me you all want more state-specific gardening advice. So let me know by giving it a thumbs up.